Okay, so Miss Shahid, we are going to go over your observation today.
Okay.
And so the agenda items are going to be we're just going to discuss the observation and, some things that I saw and some opportunities for us to enhance your teaching practices. So we're going to talk about some high leverage actions that would improve the lesson like really quickly, like some just little small things that you could change and maybe even start tomorrow with your lessons. So again, this is not evaluative, so I'm not evaluating you at all. This is just a coaching conversation that's going to help you strengthen your teaching practices. And then at the end of our conversation, we're just going to develop some next steps and some action steps. Okay. All right, so let's go over the observation. So again, thank you for letting me come in and watch the lesson. It was actually a really good lesson. I enjoyed it. So you did an EL lesson, Module 3, Unit 2, Lesson 6. And so you began your lesson by having the students read the learning target that was posted up in your room. And I really liked the way you did that. I could tell it was part of your routine. The students knew where to look in your room. They were reading it together out loud. So I really did like that. So then you went to the smart board where you had your slide deck up for the open up resources. So I could also tell that you were prepared. That was already ready to go. So I really liked that. That was really good. And it kept the students didn't have a lot of downtime while they were waiting on you to try to find it. You already had it up and it was ready to go. So then you stated what students will be learning today. So you said today we'll be learning about one of our pollinators. And then you read the song to the students. It's pollination time. Then you pulled up the nursery rhyme for students to sing along with you. So I really liked that the students were excited about it. They were really engaged. You could tell they really liked that song.
Yeah, we've been reading that song for over a week.
Yeah.
But we finished it yesterday.
Oh, okay. So, they really like it. But I've noticed with students, they like anything that they can be engaged with. So, kids learn through song. They can remember all these songs at home. So that's one way that students learn. So then you went back to the slide deck and you allowed one student to read the song aloud while the other students were seated on the carpet. Then you had another student ask if she could read the song out loud too. And then you allowed her to read it. Okay, so at that time, is there a way that you could have possibly included the whole class in that activity?
But that will take us a long time. It's a long song.
Right.
If we have each one read it, that will take a long time. And we have a short time to do the lesson and do the workbook.
Right.
So we won't be done by 11:15.
So I do have some ideas for you.
Yeah.
So that everybody has a task and they're engaged. So when I was looking through your lesson plan, they have body movements. They go with the song. So for example, it was a line in the song that said, "Bees leave hungrily." So the students could have stood up and rubbed their tummy, and maybe they could do a choral read where they all read it together and have it up on the board. So that would be a way that all students could be engaged.
Okay.
Yeah. So those are just some little ideas that I was thinking about. But then that would also be a way to help your ML students. So if there is a barrier with the language and vocabulary, let's just say one of your ML students didn't understand the word hungrily. If they're rubbing their stomachs, we know that means hungry. So that would be a way to, kind of make that connection for them. Okay, so do you think that the students were able to make a connection between the song and describing the pollinators? Do you think they made that connection?
Yeah.
You do? Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I think, they know, because we were learning about bees for a long time, so they know, how bee help with pollination. And,
okay, so they already had that background knowledge.
Yeah.
Okay, I was just wondering.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so after they were singing the song, you then went into part of the lesson where they talked about adjectives and adverbs, and so you went over what those words meant. I really liked the way you were giving examples of each, and then during that time, you did call on a couple of students where they were calling them out. They were calling out examples of the adjectives and the adverbs. So at that point, do you think that there was a way that you could check for understanding to know that each student understood the difference?
I know, like, not all my students understand the like adjective and adverb because it's hard for them, and we have been like learning about them like 3-4 days before the day that you observed me, but it's still like they're still struggling to find out like what's adverb, what adjective, how do we know the adverb, how we don't know the adjective. And I think that like mostly for all second graders, because I asked the other teachers and they all like they're just like stare at us. I was like, is that like just for my class? Because even my high students, like I was like, even my high students have like trouble.
I could tell that
out. Like I was like, oh.
I could tell you had a handful that understood that concept, but I could tell they wasn't really clear on the difference really with the adverbs. So I do have some ideas for you. So to increase that student engagement, I was thinking that if you did like put them in pairs on the carpet, they could do a turn and talk, and they share with their partner, okay, can you give your partner an example of an adjective? And that could be even as far as describe your partner's shirt. And with those describing words, they're using adjectives. Oh, such and such has on a yellow shirt today, so our adjective is yellow. And then when you call the group back together, share out what your partner described. What was their adjective? And then at that point, you could make an anchor chart. So I did bring you an example of how you could quickly, while you're doing that, a lot of times when I was in the classroom, I would quickly, if they were giving me examples of something, I would make an anchor chart as they're saying them and sharing out. Make your anchor chart. You could have a column for adjectives and then a column for adverbs. So like here's some adjectives, so you could put them in groups. Here's your size words. Here's your shape words, color words, smell words. And then I found this for you, an anchor chart for adverbs. And then you can point out too that with your adverbs, some adverbs end in ly. So you could actually, highlight the ly part of those. So I think if the kids aren't getting it, be really explicit and give them a visual. And like hang that up in the classroom. That will help because
that lesson, it just like went through that like adverb and adjective.
Really fast.
We learned about something different. Like it's just one slide and then they go to another thing. So we don't really get into this. Like we don't have a lot of time to explain that. But I like that way so I can like have something visual for them.
And that will help your ML students, your ECE students. So that's, part of that differentiation is having something visual in your classrooms. I noticed you do a great job with that already. So like you have your text features up, you've got your word wall about pollination words. So you do a really good job of having things up in your classroom. So I would that's a quick fix. When you go back over these, just make an anchor chart for students. Okay, so let's go back to this. So what I was thinking as far as your highest leverage action, where you're going to get a quick, really like bang for your buck, like you'll get a lot from that, is just increasing your student engagement, which is domain 3 of your Danielson framework. So I did print you those pages off. So it's just increasing the student engagement. And part of that is, so like your turn and talks. Kids learn through talking to each other, just like teachers. We learn through collaboration.
We did. Well, we do a lot of like turn and talk. But is that like lesson that you can? Because we don't have a lot of like turn and talk. Yeah, but we did a lot of turn and talk. Share your partner idea, and your partner will share your idea. So that and we did like the tent movement when you finish. Like they do their hands, like, so we know they're done.
Okay, good. And then the only thing I said was just collaboration and teamwork. So just finding some opportunities where they can work together. So I was thinking like even for a turn and talk, like making sure that you include some prompts when you're doing your lesson planning. That would be a great way to do that. So I was just thinking, are they making a connection between, okay, I'm drawing a picture of a bee and then I'm including my labels. Are they able to make that connection that I can do this with any book if I have this particular text feature? Because I know you said you all working on text features. So just making those connections and letting them work in a small group, and then providing them those prompts for like a turn and talk opportunity.
Yeah, we did groups today.
You did? Good.
Yeah, we did
Okay,
flies
good.
and wasps group, and we did beetlebees group, and there's another group, flies and here another group. So wasps group, yeah, it's
Okay.
like we had 3 groups today.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
So another thing that I noticed, I really liked your questioning. You had a lot of questions throughout about the adjectives and the adverbs. So you did a really good job with the questioning. But I would just make sure that there's some kind of way to just check for understanding. Yeah, with all the students. So again, I mean, the lesson was really good. I really enjoyed it. So for me, I would just say the highest leverage opportunity would just be that increasing the student engagement, which it sounds like that's something that you are incorporating with your lessons. So another thing that I noticed, so like when they went back to the seat, you had the photograph of the bee on the board that they were supposed to draw in their notebooks. So I was thinking maybe you could have made a copy and had them work in pairs, and then you could have left up your protocol on the board with the directions for what they were supposed to do if they had a copy at their desk, and they could have did that in pairs. So that was one of my ideas, to increase that student engagement and that collaboration part, and then they could share their photograph with their partner. They did a really good job with those photographs too.
Yeah, because we did the lesson before we did another bee, so they're like, they used to draw bees, and yeah, so they know.
Okay.
They love drawing, you know, they're 2nd grade.
Right. But I would just, make sure that you're just like really explicit. So like, we're learning about text features. So a diagram is a text feature. So it's a drawing with labels. So if you see another book, and to make sure that they're looking at those text features to better understand the story.
Yeah.
So that's the whole purpose of the text feature. So I would just be really explicit as to the purpose of why they're learning about drawing a bee, to make sure they're making those connections. So what I have for you for next steps, and these are just little bite-sized action steps that, it sounds like you're already, putting some of these things in place, but I would just, give more opportunities to turn and talk. And then that means like, so when you're doing your lesson planning, just be intentional about writing out some questions and some prompts for them to have those turn and talk opportunities, even if it's not in your EL lesson plan. And then allowing partner work or small group work. And then I also have creating more anchor charts to differentiate your instruction so that students have that visual. And that's going to help those ECE and ML students. So those are the action steps. Does that sound like something that you could feel like you can be able to do that?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, it sounds like you already are doing some of these things anyway. So those are our action steps. So for our timeline for follow-up, and again, I just want to thank you for your openness to the conversation and allowing me to come into your classroom. But I would like by April the 17th, if you can, give me a copy of your lesson plan, and then we can, I'll look for ways that you've included the student engagement opportunities, and then a follow-up observation by Monday, April the 21st. Does that sound okay?
Yeah.
It's a Monday. Okay, cool.
Next Monday.
And then I may pop in before then and do an unscheduled observation. Will that be okay with you?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, sounds good. Well, Miss Shahi, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right.